Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into my podcast, Scribbles of a Modern Artist, where I share personal reflections on creativity, mindset, and making art. These are meant to be short, punchy conversations that you can hopefully take inspiration from, and it can give you a little lift wherever and whenever you're listening throughout the day. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I think is really important, not only as artists, but also as human beings who seek to grow and improve themselves constantly, right? And I think that's what's so exciting about, being who we are. And it's about being a sponge at the right time, right? So first off, what does it mean to be a sponge, right? This is my kind of personal definition. And to me, being a sponge, it means to be open-minded and curious and not being afraid to ask questions and being willing to be molded while maintaining your integrity. So when I reflect back in my early journey, some people tell me, oh, Tiffanie, when I knew you in college till now, you've improved so much, so fast. I don't think I improved that fast, but I think I did improve. And they say, really kudos to you. You've improved a lot. And when I think back, I really think it's because I was really a sponge in my early years from college when I studied animation, but then I knew that I wanted to switch to being a viz dev artist, had no idea what that entailed. So then I was trying to reach out to people, trying to network, trying to ask the right questions, any questions, and also just working hard to build up my skill set in digital painting because I really sucked. I didn't know how to digital paint when I graduated college. And that was the same for gouache painting, right? I watched Mike Hernandez paint, I fell in love with gouache painting, and then I was so eager to get better that I practiced, and I also just was a sponge and just trying to paint with more people, trying to get out there, painting around LA at the time and asking the right questions to the right people, or at least the questions that I thought would help me improve. So I think being a sponge, and I say at the right times, is important because when you're starting off as an artist and you're beginner level, I think it's really important to put your ego down and really let yourself be taught by others, by the right people, not just anyone, but hopefully by people who have the best intentions for you and are willing to guide you and mentor you, right? And I think a part of that is also not being afraid to ask questions. And you might have heard the phrase, there's no such thing as dumb questions. I also agree. I think I ask a lot of dumb questions that are obvious, but to me, I always think, well, if I'm not sure about something, sometimes I will say it is better to first slow down and look it up before you ask something. But sometimes if you ask something out of genuine curiosity, people really like that. And so I think there's no such thing as dumb questions, but there are questions that are more thoughtful than others, right? So asking questions that are not only strategic, but also thoughtful, I think is really important. And to give an example, for example, if you attend a painting event, online or in person, and you're watching someone demo, the question that I get the most all the time, and I've heard other people get it when they're demoing and I'm watching in the crowd, is always, what brushes do you use, traditionally or digitally, right? And I'm going to break it to you guys. I hate that question because to me, brushes, I don't think about brushes very much. My brushes change. My favorite brushes change. They don't affect me as how I paint as an artist. And they're definitely not what shaped me as an artist. They're kind of almost like I searched for the brushes that worked with me as I grew as an artist. And so I think a lot of times people think, oh, if I have the brushes that he or she uses, and then I have the paper and the software, I will be able to paint exactly like them. And to me, that can't be farther from the truth because your experience and your background and your skill set is probably very different from that person demoing. So to just ask what brushes they're using and hoping to mimic and copy them can maybe get you so far if you're really good at copying, which sounds boring, and not creative, to be honest, it'll only get you so far, right? So questions that I think are more thoughtful can sometimes be like, what did you do, when you're starting off as an artist? What exercises did you do to get to where you are? What kind of mindset did you have when you're struggling as an artist to get better and to get over that hump of, maybe not liking your artwork and still pushing through, right? What kinds of other artists, or who did you surround yourself with? Who did you look up to as an artist when you were starting out? Which artists did you study who have maybe passed away? What books did you read? I'm a big proponent of books. So I think you can learn a lot about an artist through asking what books they read, who they studied with, who they're studying with now. What they did, not now as a successful artist, but what they did starting out, right? A lot of times we fixate on what the person who's successful now is doing now, right? I don't know, take a very successful entrepreneur or business person, and we always go, oh, this person wakes up and does this and this and this morning routine, and they do this and this and this. And then if I copy that, hopefully I'll be like them. But then we're missing the whole backstory that really shaped who they are now. So I think those kinds of questions are often forgotten and very important. So don't ask surface level questions like what brushes are you using? What paper are you using? What brand are you using? I think a great artist can make anything work. And I think digging into the philosophy of an artist and their mind is so much more interesting. So those are some examples of thoughtful questions that you can ask. Another thing is, who to ask the questions to is very important. Right. And this ties in a little bit, I would say, to presenting yourself and networking, right? It's like I said, it's very good to be open and ask questions. For example, I'm a very extroverted person, so I have no problem usually striking conversation with people and, talking to them. But at the same time, I think it's important to discern, if you're trying to find a mentor, who to ask questions to, because not everyone likes to answer questions, and sometimes you might just annoy them. So I think developing that discernment to determine who you can reach out to and who will actually give back to you is really important. And I will also say that if you carry a mindset to learn, you'll basically exude it and you'll attract people who want to mentor you. I think I maybe did a little bit of that at a younger age, right? I was just so eager to learn. Like I was such a sponge. I would take the paint overs that teachers would give me. I would apply it. I would learn. I never talked back. I just wanted to learn. I remember when I went to school at USC, that's where I got my BA in animation, I would be going to night classes at CDA. And if you've ever lived in LA, traffic is just horrific at almost all times of the day. So I'd be like stuck in traffic from, after taking classes at USC, and then I'd still have to drive and then sit in class and then drive back to my apartment. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Not the driving part maybe, but when I got to the classroom, I loved sitting in a physical environment because I loved learning. I just remember it was almost like a break for me in a way, like a fun for me, really. And I loved being with other students, loved meeting them, loved talking with them and building friendships that way. So I will say again, to reiterate, that if you carry a mindset to learn, you'll attract people who want to mentor you, and you'll also attract like-minded colleagues that want to grow with you, which I think is really important, especially when you're a younger artist starting out, beginner level, whether you're younger or older. I think when you surround yourself with like-minded people who are, goal-oriented or have a passion to get better at their craft, it's contagious and it will spread to you, and you will spread it to them, and then you lift each other up, right? And so I think that's something that's really important to remember. I was trying to remember a quote just now, but a tide raises all boats. I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but it's kind of the same idea maybe. I've heard it a lot in podcasts that I listen to, and I'm shocked that I still can't repeat it correctly. One of these episodes I will. So I think in your early stages, being a sponge is really important, right? Letting your ego down and being willing to learn, soak in. Now, as you mature as an artist, then maybe sometimes the seasons change, okay? As you get better, sometimes it might not be about being a sponge all the time, because after a certain while, that might get overwhelming. You might have too many voices in your head telling you what's wrong, what's right. And I really believe strongly that as artists, we also need to develop that voice, that inner tuition that can guide us to tell us what we're doing wrong in a painting, what we're doing right, how to have a proper dialogue with our painting. And you need that time to digest the info that you've learned and taken from your mentors and apply it to your own paintings. So developing a discernment in what advice works for you and what doesn't as you grow and mature as an artist is also very important, right? And I think that comes with experience, that comes with time, that comes with skill and going through failure. You know, if you don't take risks, you're also not going to know what works and what doesn't work for you. And I think during this time, you know, being a sponge, I think it's important to meet a lot of people and to get a lot of different opinions and voices. Maybe, not a ton, but, just enough to get a good holistic view. And I think as you mature as an artist, it's then important to seek out a few trusted friends who will give you genuine, honest advice. Okay. Not people who are going to lie to you, who maybe want to undermine you, or not people that will give you fluff like, oh yeah, that's nice. And you're like, what does nice mean? That doesn't help at all. And so I think that having a couple friends or a few friends that will give you genuine, honest advice can be one of the best things to have in your arsenal, right? For me currently, I have 2 people that I'll ask. I have one friend that I trust his advice so much. I think his sensibility to art is just above most people that I know. And so when I show him something that I'm stuck on, he can pinpoint and somehow give me advice that I really need to hear that I maybe haven't seen. Or I'm missing. I'm missing something in my painting and he can see it. And he'll always phrase it in a very kind but straightforward way. And I personally really appreciate straightforward feedback. I don't like to beat around the bush. I just want to know, and I want to be able to grow through learning that way. So it's honest, it's genuine. He'll tell me when something is not great, and he'll tell me when something is great, right? And I think that is really instrumental as well in helping you grow as an artist, right? Imagine if you're just surrounded by people who sung your praises all the time, and you don't even know if, you're actually plateauing or you're sucking, and that could be the case, but you have no one to tell you that because, I don't know, for certain reasons, they don't want to. So I think having a close group of friends is important that way and in the art community. And not just art, honestly, for life, right? I have a close group of friends who I don't talk to about art at all, but I go to my girlfriends for relationships, and I learn so much from how they handle their relationships, so much. And I take the bits that I need, and I think that could apply to me, and I think about it, and I try it out, right? But I always listen with an open mind, and that has been really instrumental. So I think understanding what season you are is really important, right? There are some seasons where you have to go back to learning, right? Even after being a very seasoned artist. I feel like this year, that was kind of a year for me. I hadn't taken a class in a while, and I'm teaching all the time, right? As a teacher, I'm teaching color scripting classes, I'm teaching painting fundamental classes, and I absolutely love teaching. But I started thinking that I miss learning as well. And so I will seek out a few people in the animation industry who I can just text and reach out to and just ask for advice. And I've taken a couple classes this year as well that have been really challenging, but I've learned so much from, right? And so sometimes it's really important, even as seasoned pro artist to go back to learning. And then there are seasons where you just need to be by yourself and digest all the info. And sometimes that's really hard because I think especially people who are more social butterflies like me, like I love being around people. I'm kind of an ambivert, so sometimes being around people can tire me at the same time, but generally I enjoy being around people. And it's hard for me to sometimes sit by myself and just wrestle with the demons and be like, okay, what is it that I really need to work on? What are written goals that I really need to hit that I'm avoiding? That can be hard. And sometimes surrounding yourself with people and not sitting by yourself is an excuse, is a way for you to not have to deal with those inner demons, right? And so that's hard for me. And so if that's hard for you, recognize that seasons like that are important as well. To sometimes cut out all the noise, right? And I know it's so hard nowadays with social media, commenting and Twitter. I don't have Twitter, by the way, but all those social media platforms, it's so easy for anyone that you don't know to get their little voice in and to just get in your head a little bit, right? And that's why I think social media sometimes is a necessary evil to obviously promote things. But if I had it my way, I would like to live as a hermit for a little bit and like get off social media for a good year or something, but that's just me. And so it's really easy to judge your artwork based on the likes that you have. Like, like the amount of likes is not that much, therefore my art must suck. I must suck, right? Or sometimes, and happens to me all the time, the pieces that I don't really care for get the most likes. Doesn't make me feel great, by the way, because I know it's kind of those basic pieces that most general people will like, and I predicted it. But the pieces that I know I struggled with, and I know that I had a really unique, special experience painting, and I learned something, like just even a little something, and it's just special to me, those paintings never get the likes as much as the other paintings on social media. I've talked to other artists about this. I don't know why it is. I think it's just sometimes you know what you achieved. And I think sometimes maybe the general public, they don't know what good art is. Maybe that can be the case. Or other reasons, or the algorithm. I don't know. And so if you let that dictate you as your quality as an artist, then you're screwed, right? You have to have a strong internal compass as well. And to know where you are in your journey, what you have to improve on, but also what you have achieved and grown from. And so I think if it was just purely social media that was dictating our quality as an artist, it would just be very depressing. And I think that's why it's really good to just be by yourself sometimes. I'm talking about all this to stress how important it is to shut off all that noise. Just take the time to be with you, your art, your craft, whatever it may be, and play, explore and play, and you will discover things that you probably wouldn't have. So I think that's the importance of seasons. No matter what, I think it's always important to stay curious, right? Now, stay curious doesn't mean be a sponge. I think that's different, right? I think being a sponge means soaking in everything. And there is a time and place for that. Not everything, but a lot of things. But being curious means you're keeping an open mind. You approach everything with curiosity, not with judgment, not with preconceptions, assumptions. You approach a painting that way. You approach people that way. You approach, new concepts that way. And I think having that mindset again of staying curious is really, really important. And in fact, that was actually my New Year's resolution this year. This year for 2025, I only wrote down 2 things. I stuck it on a sticky note and I put it on my computer so I could stare at it every single day. And I will say it helped. The first thing was to not overthink. I said, don't overthink. I realized I overthink a lot. And the second one was stay curious, right? Stay curious. Don't grow stagnant. If you're curious, you won't be stagnant, right? And I think that's what I wanted to talk about today. Why it's important to be a sponge at the right time. So if you're listening to this, I can suggest a couple takeaway action points if that helps. I think if you're, an artist starting out and you're like, Tiffanie, like, how do I seek out people? Like, who do I ask? Like, oh, so many questions. Like, what if I'm an introvert? I know there's so many things. I'm not an expert psychologist or anything, so I'm not going to dive deep into that. But I would say if you're someone who is naturally more shy, I would say a fun exercise might be to DM an artist that you admire, but you don't personally know. In fact, I do this all the time. I will just see someone's work on Instagram. Maybe I've listened to a podcast with them, and I will DM them on Instagram. I'm like, hey, so-and-so, I really love your work. I love your edge control in this painting. Or I'll send them a painting that they just posted that I really like. And I'm like, I really love how you handled this and that and your color, blah, blah, blah. They won't know who I am probably. And I'm not expecting anything. That's the key. DM someone that you might admire and don't expect an answer back. It's just good practice for you to put yourself out there. When I DM artists I admire, I never reply. I never expect a response. One, I know because they're probably super busy and they probably read it and they forgot to respond. I do that all the time, by the way. It's no hard feeling towards anyone. Or two, they just don't care to, and that's totally fine too. Maybe down the line we'll reconnect again, but I do it out of just genuine. It's this genuine care to just express that I really like their paintings and just to spread a little bit of love, that kind of comment can go a long way. And so I think that can be a good exercise in kind of breaking the ice. And another one, and I'm kind of coming off the bat, I'm just trying to think of what I've done. I think it's really important to find someone who is willing to mentor you throughout your life. And I think they can be different mentors, like they won't be the same mentor throughout your life. But I think that is something that is really important. So I would say go to more events, right? Force yourself to go to more painting events, go to more networking events, go with a couple of friends, sketch, paint, draw, whatever, go eat with some people. That can be really powerful as well. And through those interactions, you never know who you can meet, right? You have to put yourself out there in order to find someone who could be a great friend or who could be your mentor. And I would say when you find someone, be your genuine self, but also don't smother them so much that, they feel like they can't be themselves around you as well, right? Like don't translate excitement into smothering, I would say. And I think also being professional is important as well. And also, when I say smothering, I think I mean more like respect their space and their time as well, right? They also are people with lives. And I think that if someone is willing to mentor you, whatever capacity that may be, it's important to understand that they also have a life outside of that. They probably have a family, have kids, whatever, and that respecting their time is important. And that means putting in the work as well, right? Showing whoever is mentoring you that you have what it takes. Don't talk back or don't be so ego driven that you think you know it all. Do the work and show them. Right. A lot of times people like to talk and they like to say, oh, but I'm gonna do this anyways, blah, 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 blah. And I think sometimes less talking and more doing is the way to show your competence. So hopefully those 2 tips helped. And I hope you found this podcast helpful, or this episode helpful in any way. And Remember again that whatever season you're going through, it's never too late to build a community, to find a community, which I think is so important, to find those friends and those mentors that will give you that honest, genuine advice to truly flourish as an artist. Thank you so much again for tuning into my podcast, Scribbles of a Modern Artist, and I will catch you in the next one.